Tony, how important is it or how good is it to get off to a good start, 3 runs in the first to kind of allow everybody to play a little more open?
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's a byproduct of how sound they showed up to the park today, or just the energy that they had was interesting to me, because I would rate it number one to this point in the year. That's encouraging because we should be making progress in every category, but Wednesdays are not your typical day that you play, and I think this is our last Wednesday, or at least our last week where we'll play 2 games. So to me, they had more reasons to not show up focused today. They won last night. Sometimes you have a tendency to look towards the weekend just as a kid in general, but especially when you get to play on Friday nights, that's as exciting as it gets, I feel. But they were locked in. That was a byproduct of that. And it allowed us to joystick some guys around on the mound and later in the game. So I will say that I think we needed to play a more complete game. But, you're not always going to put runs on the board. They got good arms. They're well coached, and, our guys made a couple base running mistakes that popped up, but, it was encouraging to see that we came out of the gates like that 2 days in a row, really, if you look at it.
What's impressed you most about A.J. Russell and his 6 or so innings he's thrown so far this year?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we think he's a confident kid, but there's no way he's more confident in himself than the coaching staff is. We believe in him a lot. And obviously when you recruit somebody, you think that, but then there's a time frame between when you commit to a school and when you actually end up at the school. And of course, there's a signing period in there too. But nowadays, how early some of these baseball guys are committing. And he wasn't that young, but that period in between there, he got real good. And then when you get with Frank and Q, and Woody's a big part of what we do with our pitchers too in the training room, you should get better, and he has. So it's exciting more than anything to see how well he's doing. And then also Christian Moore and Frank and I were in the corner of the dugout kind of talking, like he's just kind of knocking on the door of what he can do in the long run. And we'll respect the fact he's a freshman and has some time, but pretty exciting. I don't even know if that answers your question, but he's exciting.
There's a few more weeks until you get there, but you envision him being a guy that's going to get weekend innings in SEC play?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't say we're lost, but we're searching a little bit to put pieces of the puzzle in the right spot. I think we've got a lot of puzzle pieces, if we're going to roll with that analogy, and it can make a complete picture that we're very happy with. But where each guy goes is going to require a little bit of Tetris type effort if we can, again, play off that a little bit. And it'll be interesting. I think he's shown he could finish a game because you're going to get strikes. He could start a game because he's kind of been trained to be a starter for us. And then anything in between, which he's already done once, we're confident in as well. So what guys are going to do maybe a little bit better than him, or where we decide it's best suited for the team, we'll see.
How have you been impressed by inserting Blake Burke into the middle of the lineup this season, and seems to be driving in runs like he's been in that role for a while?
Yeah, certain guys kind of sense it. Manny Ramirez was one of those guys when he was playing, but certain hitters kind of sense an opportunity that I can get an RBI here. And I think Blake has the benefit of the guy hitting behind him is like that as well. And he's also a proven, experienced hitter. So I don't fault the strategy of the walk there. I would have done the same thing with Blake. But it's nice having 2 guys like that kind of sniff out the RBIs a little bit. And then if you're just going to go in the whole Blake Burke conversation in general, when you watch him swing, it doesn't. Anybody could size up the swing and say that's a good swing. And then he came into the school already with some ability, and of course he works really hard in here. But if you're with him in the dugout last year and kind of had a vibe from him of how much pride he had in his work and how much he wanted to win, how good of a teammate he is, you mix all that up together and you kind of can't predict the future, but he's going to be a really good player for us and a good presence, not just in the lineup, but he's done that defensively too.
Did you envision him becoming this complete of a hitter this early in his career? Because especially for a guy with that much power, sometimes the all-around aspect takes time, but it looks like he's there.
I think once he got here, Coach Elander first saw him in a Team USA event, which means you're kind of already pooled into a pretty talented group. So again, it's not like he's not without skill or success in the past, but Maui, Blake, and a few others were chatting with myself, and it's like, it's interesting to follow those groups of guys that go to the area code games or these select events, McDonald's All-American type thing. Some guys continue down the path, which you guys are all writing about. Well, if he's in the McDonald's All-American basketball game, he's going to be pretty dang good. it's doesn't always work out that way, especially in baseball. There's so many moving parts, and he just has really elevated his game from them. So I don't know when it would have hit us, but again, last year there was a lot of positivity coming out of the coach's office when we were observing him. So you knew things were going to be good, and he was going to develop in a mature way.
Building off what you said earlier, what have you seen from Zane Denton at the plate this season?
Yeah, I mean, we're coming off, I don't know why we're throwing out McDonald's All-American game, but on behalf of our team, I can tell you sunken hearts last night and today for Zakai. I've been around to see a official statement, but that guy kind of embodies what we're trying to do here. The way he plays, the way he works, the way he carries himself off the field. If I was a Kentucky basketball player, I would not like that guy because he plays with some attitude and he plays hard, plays with a chip on his shoulder. But if I was a young kid, a 6-year-old running around in the stands at any SEC city, I'd love that guy because he's just so good off the field. So that's what we're trying to be, and we're trying to get Zane Denton to be like that here on this campus. I'm pretty sure he was probably that at Alabama, but we're blessed to have him here. And, he provides a calming influence on defense over at third and then again at the plate. We've had guys here that really wear their emotion on their sleeve. He's just kind of steady Eddie in here in the cages on the field. And to have that right in the middle of your lineup and at a spot where it's very hard to find a good defender in college baseball is definitely a notch in our belt.
Tony, you mentioned the base running errors for you guys. What's the balance there in being aggressive but not foolish?
Well, I think for us, we harp on and we spend a lot of time and try and press the buttons for them to be aggressive. So now that we're in the part of the season, no longer scrimmage season, where it's kind of expensive to make those mistakes and will get more expensive as conference comes around, the game will kind of start to correct those, but we got to assist too and say, hey, here are the lessons we're pushing. And sometimes we do first to third. You're supposed to go no matter what. And, different things, ball in the dirt, be really aggressive. We got to rein some guys in. And if you really kind of look at it from our perspective, you'd rather have guys being too aggressive or being too fired up and have to calm them down than vice versa. But we got to start playing ball like it's baseball because that's definitely what we're right in the thick of. What are we, at 10 games now? Our first block of 10 games. So it's time to just play ball. And you try and swing at strikes, take balls, and you try and get to the next base safely when you're on offense. And it's really just that simple.
What have you seen from Hunter Ensley early on trying to find his role?
Yeah, he's doing the best he can with what he's being provided. And I think any kid out there who has the excuse of, well, I need to get in a rhythm and I haven't played every day, that you can use foul language to describe that mentality. But it is a lot easier to come to the park every day and be in the lineup and rack up a bunch of at-bats and things like that. So he's kind of caught in the middle of that, and when he's been out there, for the most part, he's done really well. And what he needs to understand, and most kids need to understand, is it's not necessarily what you do, but kind of how you do it. And you got to strike out in this game, and you're going to, Reese Chapman, for instance, tonight, as a young freshman, I don't think he'd be like this. He might go back to the dorm saying, man, I had a chance to hit. I didn't get a hit. Well, he dang near drove that thing out of the park, and he looked really good in the box doing it. So for us, we're kind of watching more how he goes about it. And Hunter Ensley's gone about his business pretty well and almost had what to date would be the biggest hit of the year. Unfortunately, Arizona's got a really good defensive third baseman.
Closer, Wyatt and Camden, to being able to get on the mound?
Yeah, to the point where it's kind of getting silly, the back and forth between me and Camden. Much sooner than later for him. And then Wyatt has finally got into a deal where it's no longer 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It was a official timeout, just to be honest with y'all. And then, okay, let's ramp it up and get that progression. So a little bit more steady is the race for him. And Camden, we've officially reached the point where he could throw this weekend if we want him to, and we'll just talk as coaches and kind of figure it out. You guys, I think we're talking to big man Joyce about, it's a good problem to have some depth. I mean, we're searching for ways to get guys out there to the point where if I'm you all, you're probably cussing me a little bit because I go out there to make a change in a weird way, but it's to try and get guys involved and make sure, again, no stone unturned going into conference play.